Roshane, thanks for joining me, mate. It's good to get to talk to you.
Yeah, good to talk to you as well, bro.
I just wanted to start off our chat because I'm a big follower of your work. I've read some stuff. I saw where was it? Let me get this up now. I went fishing and I found an article about you on Rising East.
Okay, yeah, I was on there
Um,
recently.
yeah, just a little just to try and find out a bit more about you.
Yeah.
And I saw that you'd done stuff for Hello magazine and you did a journalism course and all these different aisles and different alleys that you went down and all these different things that you tried your hand at. And I just want to know what it was that sparked your mental for wanting to be a journalist and wanting to go down that route, and then how it sort of snowballed into getting you where you are today.
All right. So obviously, um, see, I'm 27 now, right? So in school, I was like I was like good at football, like when I was younger. But the thing is, right, there was so much like gun and eye crime. My mum was like, listen, because at the time I used to play for Leighton Orient Academy, and mum was like, listen, it's too far. There's a lot of violence going on. I don't want you going by yourself anymore. Like, you have to stop. I was thinking, oh, bloody hell, like, what am I going to do now? But the thing is, right, I was also really good at English. I
Mm.
mean, teacher's like, listen, Mike, I think you're really good at English. Why not have a career in journalism? And obviously at the time, I didn't know much about journalism and whatnot. So I'll do like a lot of reading, a lot of like reading materials. And then I came across Darren Lewis. And the reason why I mentioned Darren Lewis because at the time I wasn't really seeing much like black journalists. I've seen a lot of white journalists, but not many like black journalists.
Mm.
So when I saw Darren Lewis, I was reading and stuff thinking, oh, okay, it's possible. I could definitely do this. I could definitely do this. So sort of like long story short, the biggest point was when I got to college because I got to college. I was in the last day of my first year. I won't forget it because at the time there was a big story about obviously Eden Hazard joining Chelsea. I told me and my mate, like, listen, we're gonna make a blog. I was gonna write loads of transfer stories, just loads of
Bob,
transfer
Bob.
stories. So I had my own blog and he had his blog. So every day, bro, I'd write like 15 articles, just writing stuff, getting a practice like writing articles. But the thing is, he never like continued. He only went one blog, and that was it. Like he just thought, forget this is just too long, forget this. But I just kept at it, kept writing stuff, and obviously it reached a point where I was like, you know what? It's good me like obviously writing stuff I've seen online, but I want to like get in the hang of like getting my own material. I want to I can get my own stuff. So that's when I started like interviewing people, getting stuff from non-league because I was like, well, like fifth, like eight, like 18, 20 at the time, and
Yeah.
obviously I can't be interviewing people in the Premier League. I've got to like build gradually, and the reason why I say non-league is like I was able to like build up my confidence, get in the habit of like what to ask, what not to ask, and yeah, like that pretty much it went from there. It's got the love of it, got the gist of it. I was always reading other people's stuff, like trying to take bits from what they do and how I could do it even better. And that's
Yeah.
what really kickstarted the love for me, bro. So yeah, that's definitely where it started from.
What university did you go to? You said that obviously when you were 18, 20, you started off. I read that you did a journalism course, right?
Yeah, I went to
Yeah.
university for the creative arts in Farnham.
Okay, creative arts.
Yeah.
Nice.
You know what? There's another person in my year who's also doing good stuff. His name was Chris Wheatley. He called his
Uh,
Arsenal for goal. So we and
yeah,
him were in
yeah.
the same year. Same year. We push each other. So yeah, good to see him doing well.
When you were at uni, were you one of the few black people on your course, or were they all white dominated, or was it
Yeah,
so?
no, it's definitely white dominant. I'll probably say was I doing? Yeah, was that? Yeah, I was. I was the only black guy. Obviously, there was another Asian guy as well. Me and him got on well. We still chat now, in fact. But I was the only black guy, and yeah, like predominantly white university I went to, bro. So I was sort of like an outsider in a
Did,
sense where there's no one else similar skin color to me. So it was a bit weird. It was a weird one at first, but obviously I
did,
got used to it in the end.
did you find that in itself, and of course, like, it's totally fine if you didn't at all, but
Yeah.
did you find that hard at the time, or did you find it hard looking back, or was there did you ever struggle with, you know confidence and things like that when you were the only black guy in a whole university course? Because even me myself, something, so I've got a silly hairstyle, dreadlocks, and I look around my course
Yeah, no, bro.
and everyone thinks a white guy with dreadlocks, and I think, oh God, what is everyone going to think of me? But it must be hard to some degree to be the only black person on your course?
I'll say what was not hard, but I guess challenging
Yeah.
was like, so for example, certain slang terms I'll say to my friends, I couldn't do it in the environment I was in. So like, obviously, I'm from South London, Brixton, right? So one of my friends were like, oh,
Oh,
"What's going on,
Brixton. Yeah.
fam?" Yeah, Brixton. So I'm like, "Oh, what's going on, fam? What's going on, cuz?" You know, all
Yeah.
those sort of slang terms. I couldn't do that
Yeah. Yeah.
because they wouldn't have a clue what fam meant. They wouldn't know what cuz meant. So I sort of had to like water down the sort of language I'd use, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a challenge. You know what made it a lot easier? Obviously we'll talk about it later on in the questions, but when I used to go to a lot of matches, like in the press box, and quite often I'd be the only black journalist.
Mm.
So because I was doing that on a regular basis, I sort of just got used to being the only like, black person like in a predominantly a white environment. So at first I was like, oh bloody hell, I'm the only one here. But after a while, you just get used to it. Like you really
Mm.
do.
Did that motivate you to almost pave the way, be like a pioneer, if you like, for people? I mean, it might not be something that you thought of straight away, but now that you think of it as, you know, as one of the few black people, as you said, around in a press box, stuff like that, do you find that as almost a tool of motivation to try and help push, the diversity around these career paths in the right direction?
You see, I didn't at first. I'll be honest with you, bro. I didn't at first.
Yeah.
But as I mentioned, when I saw and I was reading Darren Lewis's stuff, that motivated me to think, oh, you know what, I can
Mm.
do it. So obviously, in my role now at the Athletic, and to be honest, when I cover West Ham, I'm still pretty much the only black journalist in the press box. If I'm being honest with you, sometimes there's like Gary Jacob from the Times or Adrian Kajamba from the Daily Mail, but if it's not those two, then it's just pretty much, or maybe Darren Lewis every now and then. But if not, I'm pretty much still the only black journalist in the press box. So I
Mm.
sort of look at it and be like, listen, I'm sort of the guy that like people look up to and be like, oh, listen, he's done it, I can do it too. But I always try and help out in terms of advice, and it's just to know that there's someone there that can make it possible. So people will look at me and think, oh, if he can do it, I can definitely do it. And it's good to sort of be that face where people have the confidence that they can do it, because
Mm.
there's also another side to look at it. When I was the only black journal on my uni course, obviously my sort of thing was like, I'm just as good as you guys. Like, yeah, my skin color could be different, but I can do the work just as well as you guys, probably even better. You
Mm.
know what I mean? So I use that to spur me on as well as motivation.
Yeah, yeah. Um, do you know what? I think even just touching on that, it's just popped into my head that I feel like social media these days, especially, I mean, what year did you start going to uni? But Eden Hazard, what,
Uh,
2012, 13?
2012,
Yeah.
2012, and I graduated in 2015.
And obviously social media around then was just coming out, wasn't it? And like you as a young man, I feel like it must have been a lot harder to see, because of football behind the scenes, stuff like journalism, at least from my perspective, as trying to be a journalist and trying to succeed as one, it's all quite behind closed doors. It's all quite exclusive.
Yeah,
And now with social media, I think these days you see like people are becoming more their own brand and they're putting their own stuff out there and they're people having their own, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was maybe far less likely back, say 10 years ago, for somebody to say, oh, I like this journalist, I like that journalist, this journalist, because they would all be working under one outfit. And now you see a lot of people sort of branching out, making their own brands and making a name for themselves. So it's a lot easier to see people who you can relate to and think, okay, that spurs me to go on and do my thing.
for sure. You know what? I feel like we've seen that a lot, especially at YouTube. I feel
Mm.
like that's been the biggest market for something like that. You got all these YouTubers, like so many, like Arsenal fan TV, Tottenham, and then you got like what's it, Filthy Fellas, and all these sort of like YouTube platforms that perhaps 10 years ago we wouldn't have seen, but now we can see it. And the beauty of it is like people that look like myself that I'm watching on YouTube do well. People who talk similar to me when I'm my friends, you know what I
Yeah,
mean, do well. And it's good to see that, 'cause someone could be in a room and feel like, you know what, I can do that as well. I can buy a
yeah.
camera, give my thoughts and a couple of support, hopefully get a large following. And
Mm.
then, from there, who knows, go on TV, put together a blog, you know what I mean? Back in 10 years ago, you touched on that wouldn't really be the in thing.
Mm.
So you sort of need someone to lead by example, someone to give everyone the motivation to do well. That's why, again, I'll touch on Darren Lewis. I call Darren Lewis uncle, like that's out of respect. That's uncle, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
he's
man.
given so many young journalists like myself just that sort of motivation to be like, listen, he can do it. I can definitely do it. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
yeah, so that's true, bro.
Well, like you were saying earlier, that when you went to the uni that you went to, you felt like you had to water down and sort of hone your language and the way you were, and almost, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but almost your personality, because you felt like you had to be filtered into a certain way in order to make it as a journalist. And I think it's quite refreshing that nowadays all these different platforms, all these things that are popping up with modern media, shows that it doesn't matter what background you come from, how you are, how you look. I think it's a lot easier now to make it in that world without having to be tailored and be able to have to fit the bill of a certain model.
Yeah, for sure. And like even like how you talk and whatnot, like again, how you like interact with others, it's
Mm,
just a lot different now about how I was when I think back to like when I first started junior. Like we used to do so many like different practicals, like we used to do like news reading and I struggled that big time. Like I could not get just to that one bit. I'll struggle with stuff like that, even like going on night outs with
mm,
uni mates, even that was a struggle at first because I was thinking like obviously we're different in terms of what we want to achieve in our career, but we're different in terms of like how we approach things and how we do stuff. And
mm,
like for example, right, I remember one day for uni we had to do like a little podcast. Obviously we wanted my yeah, it was mostly Arsenal fans, so let's talk about like, what's going on with Arsenal. And even that was a struggle. Like these other guys are so well spoken, and I'm just here just struggling to even like stringing together a few words just to sound like them. So even stuff like that, for example, was a bit of a struggle because these guys are from like Surrey and they'll be sort of affluent areas. I'm just the average guy from bloody Brixton. You know
yeah.
what I mean? So I can't even lie to you. At first I'd be like, oh bloody hell, like I can't even be as good as them when it comes to something like a podcast. But again, you just use it as motivation to try better yourself.
Mm,
And the thing is, right, when you sort of like come from humble beginnings, you don't have much. I feel like it just adds to the story even more and just makes you even more motivated to do well. And I
mm,
feel like that applies to a lot of like, black YouTubers you see or like black writers like myself. Like, we sort of feel like you got a chip on our shoulder. So it
mm,
just feels even more to do well.
mm. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, I think it's intimidating enough in a career path like journalism when there's so much stuff and there's so many especially in the modern day, responsibilities that you have and stuff that you have to learn in order to make it, let alone when, you're battling it against the odds,
Yeah.
and you need to make a name for people who are outspoken in that industry, because, that is the most important thing, as the world progresses, is that we need to, bring things forward with the times. And, if stuff gets stuck in the past, it never ends well. So it is, I do agree with you. I think it is very important to make those type of people stand out. And moving on to what I was going to say next, when you were at uni, because, I've been waiting all day to talk to you about the athletic. But like, briefly going over it, what was your first job when you graduated from uni? And then how did that lead on to, what were the stepping stones for you to get onto the athletic?
So I'm gonna tell you about my mindset in uni, right? I got my job before I even graduated. That's how on it I was.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
in my last year in particular, it reached the point where I was hardly in because I was on work experience. I told myself I'm gonna get a job before I graduate. So
Yeah.
I sort of thought different to everyone else. Everyone's like, "Oh, I'll graduate first, then get a job." I'm like, "Nope, I'm gonna get a job first before I graduate." And
Yeah.
in my last year at uni, as you sort of read in the article, I was everywhere. Like I was at Hello Magazine. I was everywhere. Like I was
Writing
even
about
going.
Kerry Katona.
I didn't even write. I didn't even write often. I was just hanging. I was just giving out like newsletters,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
newsletters. Sorry, I was giving out letters and doing basic job like that. It's just all part of the process. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that place was full of politics. That work experience. My goodness, that
Really?
politics. Yeah, it was full of politics. Couldn't really do much. Obviously, it was so that taught me what it's like to sort of work in like a female office because
Mm.
I went to work in like mainly like a male office or it being like mainly like a lot of like white people in the office, for example, but that was just mainly women. I think I was the only male. Yeah, I was in fact.
Very,
I was the
is
only
it very
male.
intense, those type of environments? Is it very intense?
I'll say a lot of bitching.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of bitching goes on in a sort of environment like that. But again, it adds to the experience. So I experienced that before. I don't plan to go in that field again. But if it does come about, I'll have prior experience of what it was like. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I was everywhere, and I even to show how dedicated I was, I went work experience at Peterborough United. Like
Yeah.
Brixton to Peterborough, like how far is that? You know what I mean? Having
Yeah.
to pay train ticket pretty much every day, but I did it because I was like, listen, I need to get a job before I graduate, and I want to build contacts. I want people
Mm.
to know who I am, and I kid you not, Peterborough, Talk Sport, they all said, listen, come back. Like we like you so much, come back. So again, you've got to sort of have the personality to do well. So yeah, so it reached the point on my last day when I was on work experience at Talksport, the guy, Laurie, I think his last name was Palicio or Polino, something like that. He was like, listen, you're here all the time. Like, we need to give you a job now. Like, you know what I'm
Oh
saying? We need to
my
give you a
God.
job. So that would have been, I graduated in the summer, so let's say July, August time, and I got offered a job around February, March.
Yeah.
So that's like a good 4 or 5 months prior. And listen, I was buzzing because I was thinking like, I achieved my objective. My objective was to get a job before I graduate. And now, I hit the jackpot. So yeah, pal.
How was Talksport?
No, Talksport was really good. It was really, really good. Obviously, it was a challenge in a sense where it wasn't what I wanted to do long term because I wasn't writing at Talksport. I was doing like booking guests. I was doing audio. So my job role was a phone up. So let's say you call Talksport, I'll be like putting you on hold, finding out what you're going to talk about,
Yeah. Yeah.
typing in the search box and whatnot, saying where you're from. And
Mhm.
then from there, I moved up to an AP, which is an assistant producer. So I'm booking guests to come on the show. I'm editing audio. I'm liaising with the producer.
Mhm.
But the next upgrade from that is to become a producer. So like, um, that means you're like basically directing the show, and I didn't want to do that because again, it's not what I want to do long term.
Mhm.
So, but again, experience under my CV, experience, and that's the one thing I always tell young people: like, just do everything you can.
Mhm.
You may not want to do it long term, but it adds to your CV. It shows you've been everywhere. So, but yeah, in answer to your question, though, it was really good. It was really good. Talks about. I learned a lot there.
So what do you want to do long term then? If you're even if you're still not there yet, I mean, I know you say you're 27, but career paths can be long and varied. Like where do you want to end up?
You see, I love what I do now. I love covering West Ham, but basically it's a dream job. But you do sort of think like, oh, it's something I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. And I'm
Mm.
always just drawn towards like crime and like for me personally, but I'm not sure if you know the story, but before I joined Athletic, I was gonna join the police force,
Okay.
detective.
Wow. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
and that's still something I'm just sort of like drawn towards your career in the police. But the thing is, the police force is so racist. You know what I mean? So it's like, is it even worth it? So if I don't do that, then I'll definitely stick to what I do, like stay in the industry because I love it so much.
Mm. Do you support West Ham though? No.
Well, and now I do. When I was younger, I supported
Yeah.
Arsenal. So
Okay.
I
Yeah.
was an Arsenal fan growing up, but I stopped caring about Arsenal around like 2012, 2013.
I don't blame you, mate. You got out of
Yeah,
an emotional, abusive relationship.
I know. But like, so when I was at uni, I used to also cover like youth team games for West Ham.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
knew some players coming through and whatnot. I didn't have like a close bond like what I do now. But yeah, now I'm definitely fully invested in West Ham, that's for sure.
Do you have a lot of social media interactions or even real life interactions with the players, sort of off camera? I know you have to interview and you have to communicate and stuff like that, but do you feel like you form kind of obviously around a club environment, there's a big sort of sense of community. And if you're a football correspondent for a club, do you feel like, what's the sort of atmosphere like with the players and the staff and like, what sort of a brief little insight into how it is?
Yeah. Now it's sort of changed a little bit because of COVID.
Mm.
So like before we could go to the training ground and like we might see the players driving their like cars and have a quick chat with them, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
often they'll sign autographs. So you could just have a quick chat with them briefly, like finding out what's happening and how it's going. But now it just can't really get that chance because as I mentioned COVID. So you lose it, you sort of
Mm.
lost that interaction with them slightly. But I say now mainly with staff. So whether it's like a phone call to find out how things are, or like press conferences, they're not as good as how the interaction personally, but now it's done via Zoom. So that, for example, what I say the main one really in my experience now is youth team games. A lot
Oh,
of
sure.
interaction, yeah, a lot of interaction at youth team games because sometimes you see like the parent there or an agent there for a young player, so you can
Mm.
have a quick chat with them. Or like say,
Yeah.
'cause I remember oh, it was in the summer. It was Chelsea against West Ham, and like a few young players I've written pieces for. It was sort of like a like thumbs up, keep up the good work sort of thing. So you sort of had that little dialogue there. So
Mm.
it's a bit crap in terms of COVID, but you can still find ways to adjust.
Mm. I'm trying to think. You know what? I'm trying to remember the name of that West Ham kid who's coming up striker that you always gas about on Twitter.
Oh, me, Paul, the Becco.
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no,
Do you
I used
ever
to
chat
comment
to
it.
him?
Not him, but his agent, definitely his agent.
Yeah,
So I'll chat to his agent and find out how he's doing and whatnot.
yeah,
Like, listen, I know he struggled against Man United in his debut, but I think he's really good. Like, I've always been impressed every time I've seen him play. But he's young as well, like 18, so he's not going to be a finished article yet. He's still got plenty more learning to do. And the thing is, he's been training with the first team for the past, what, 2 months now. So that's how
yeah.
highly David Moyes rates him. He hasn't been training with under 23s. So yeah, definitely someone West Ham fans should look out for.
Are there other journalists that cover West Ham that you have to work with quite a lot, or at least you have to be in the same environments with quite a lot? And if so, what are your relationships like with them?
Yeah, we're in the same environment in terms of the press box and obviously the press conferences. And
Yeah,
yeah, like to be fair, they've all been like really friendly. No one's sort of, 'cause the thing is, journalism, it's a good career, but it's full of politics.
yeah,
Now that I'm actually in it, this industry is
yeah, yeah.
full of politics. It's crazy. So quite
Mm,
often, it's a thing where a journal will know who you are, but they won't say hello. For example,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like they'll know who you are, they'll read your stuff, but if they see you, they won't say hello, which I find absolutely crazy.
Mm,
So it tends to be a thing where like the older guys may see someone, I think, may see like a young kid like myself, be, oh, he's a threat to our job. Whereas I'm like, listen, if you do well, I'm motivated to do well. Like it helps competition. If you put
mm,
out a good story, I want to put out a good story because you know what I mean. Like I'm inspired by what you do. I'm not saying you'll be inspired by what I do, but you'll see me put out good work. You'll be like, oh, listen, I want to be just as good as you. I want to keep putting out work just as good as you. And that's always been my mindset. So but yeah, like Gary Jacob from that time, he's one in particular. He's been really helpful and really friendly. There's Tom Clark. He's at Football London. Again, he's been really friendly, really cool guy. Who else? Jack Rosler. He also covers the West Ham games when it even started. He's really cool. Sam Dean is another name. And like for example, Dave Evans. He used to cover West Ham for the Run for Recorder. Unfortunately, he passed away on Christmas Day. But again, another older guy took me under his wing, showed me
mm.
stuff, really helpful. Oh, Brian Jarvis. How could I forget Brian? Like he's probably the best one out of everyone. To be fair, like been so cool. But again, like it's about how you carry yourself. If
Yeah,
I thought, oh, look at me, I'm Billy Big Bollocks, I'm better than everyone else, no one would have time for me. Like, you gotta
yeah,
be
yeah,
humble. I could have an exclusive story, right? And you still gotta be humble. You still can't feel like you're better than everyone else. Like, there's so much learning to do in this industry.
yeah.
So you just gotta humble yourself, that's for sure.
I mean, you talk about politics in journalism, and that was something that I was told about almost from the minute I walked in the door here on the uni course. And all of our lecturers say, "Oh, journalists are the most hated people in the world, most hated job in the world," blah blah blah, all this stuff. And I mean, the thing that always pops into my head is surely if if you conduct yourself in a benevolent way and a polite and humble way, like you were saying, and you don't have the attitude of uptight and being, oh, he's a threat, she's a threat, and you help and you uplift those around you. I feel like surely that actually helps to improve your own reputation in the journalism game, rather than you know this thing be a threat to your job, or stop you from having certain opportunities. It feels mad to me as a student and an outsider looking in.
For sure. And it comes down to a simple saying. Bear with me 1 second. My because I have a show I'm recording.
Oh yeah,
Bear with me 1 second. It just shut off. Hold on.
that's fine, mate. Sorry about that with the issue with the recording. Roshane, for what Karen, what you're saying, mate.
Yeah, so it comes down to a simple saying about listen, it doesn't cost a thing to have manners. Like if you
Mm,
if your manager will take you so far in life, not just in journalism, but just in life in general. And with journalism, especially in this job, there's so much stuff where you have to like rely on people. So, for example, right, it was after the West Ham Tottenham game, the 2-1 win, and my dictaphone didn't record the post-match interview with David Moyes. So I was thinking, oh crap, like I haven't got it recorded. So I asked Tom Clark, the guy from Football London, like, is there any chance you could like forward it to me on WhatsApp? And he thought, yeah, no problem, I could do it. I could do that for you. But he didn't have to do that. He could have been like, your rival, I'm not gonna help a rival out. You
mm,
know what I mean? So stuff like that, for example. And there's another thing we do during after press conference, we have like an email chain. So we put together all our quotes from the presser, and like every journal can see what which report asks what. But I don't have to do that. I could be like, I'm not in the question, I don't have to do that. So again, it just shows like, listen, sometimes it's good to work as a team. Like one person can't fit in there like big time. Like everyone's got to be level-headed. As I mentioned, I could have the best story ever. I could have some mad story to do with West Ham, but I still got to humble myself. Like I'll give
Mm.
another example. When I did the story on Antonio crashing his car, Lamborghini, like I was on cloud nine because it was such a great story, like such a good story. But still, I still humble. I still, conduct myself in the right way. I wasn't thinking like, oh, look at me, I'm better than everyone here. Like I was like, listen, I've so much learning to do. So yeah, that's the best mindset to have in this industry. That's for sure.
I mean, I read that. I mean, developing on what you said about a journalist's characteristics and having to stay humble and stuff like that, you've also got to have a hell of a lot of other characteristics. And I remember reading that, from your own words in a quote piece, that you went to the where Antonio crashed his car. That crazy guy wearing that. What was he doing? Like, I swear he was wearing dinosaur ones or
Snowman.
something at Christmas or something
Yeah,
like that.
snowman. Suit.
But yeah, didn't you say that you got turned away originally by the owner of the house, and then you chipped away and managed to get back in there?
Yeah. So this is the charm. This is the charm. I can be very charming, you see, very very
Yeah,
charming. So it took me. I got to the location, but my Uber driver dropped me off at the wrong place. So it took me ages. I'm thinking, where on earth am I? Like, can't find a place. So I found it eventually. And then
yeah,
the mum, she's like the owner of the house, she was on the phone. So she was like, oh, like 1 second, I'm just on the phone quickly. And then I told her, listen, my name's Roshane Thomas. I'm a reporter from the Athletic. I cover West Ham. I heard about what happened last night. Is there any chance we can have a chat? And she was like, nope, don't want to say anything. I'm thinking, oh, bloody hell, like I'm here. I've been sent here to try and do a job. I, I'm thinking I'm definitely getting a story. Like I'm definitely getting a story. But I'm thinking, how can I like get her to get me in the house? So it was Boxing Day, right? The day before, obviously Christmas Day. So I was like, what did you cook for dinner? I mean, what did you cook for dinner? Like, did you burn the turkey? Did everyone enjoy their meal? What presents did you get? I'm
yeah.
just trying anything right now to get her to laugh.
So wait, so
And she,
was you knocking on the window after she'd shut the door? Or were you still at the door
no, she
saying,
didn't shut the door. She was
oh,
outside.
okay, all right, all right.
She was outside, but like, I don't know, a couple of yards from my house from the front door. So she was outside. And I was thinking, like, how on earth am I gonna get inside the house for her to tell me what happened?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then yes, I was just trying to find ways to get her to laugh. And eventually she laughed. It's like, okay, come inside. When she said come inside, I was like, yep, I have the story. I have it.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
have the story. So yeah. So again, I could have easily been like, oh, okay, fair enough, I'll go home. But
Mhm.
like you gotta have that drive. You gotta turn a no into the best journals never take no for answer.
Yeah, yeah,
Like you gotta try and turn that no into a yes. And that's one skill I've learned. Like you gotta try. If
mm.
someone's like pissed off and go away, don't talk to you, then obviously
Yeah, yeah.
it's a
You
bit
get
hard
them.
in that respect. But if they're like, no, but they still want to turn it to a yes, you got to do everything you can to try and turn it into a yes.
But being Mr. Charmer as well, not only does it let you into the premise where you're trying to try and get the story, but it also, I guess, if you're interviewing people, also, makes them more comfortable with you and makes them give you better answers and also, contribute to a better story in general.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And that like I'll do for that same thing you're talking about, the rising stars. I was telling him like obviously we all could be good journals, but you gotta have a little bit of personality. Like
Mm.
I'm a big fan of wrestling, right? WWE.
Yeah, yeah.
And everyone can be a wrestler, but only a few can be The Rock. Only a few can be Stone Cold. Only a few can have that personality to have a good character.
That's
Like
a good
everyone can
analogy.
wrestle. It's like journalism. Everyone can write, but
Yeah,
the
yeah.
best one like get stories. They have that personality. They're just a bit different to everyone else.
Mm.
And that's always my main advice. You just got to find what works for you. And I call it a USP. Like, what's your unique selling point?
Mm.
And I feel like, besides writing, I feel like mine is my personality and my charm. Because my charm is the reason why I was able to get in the house for that story. I could have easily been like, defeated, felt sorry for myself. And that's because for that day in particular, I had to go to Crystal Palace for West Ham.
Yeah.
So I had to go there like straight after. I could have been like, try my best. It didn't work. I'll just go to the match. But I was like, nope. I need to get this story. Again, having like determination. I need to get this story. Like,
Yeah.
I want to be like better than everyone else. So yeah, bro. That's what separates the men from the boys. If that's how they say it.
Yeah, no, I get what you're trying to say. And like your USP that you just said then, obviously your advice and your mindset has got you to where you are today. And, being football correspondent for a big media outlet like The Athletic. And also that you were on the football Ugo Ekiog's football blacklist. And I wanted to talk about that because also that's such a important advocate or whatever the word is for change
Yeah.
in the industry. And I just want to know like when they contacted you, how they got in touch with you, and what it means to you know win an award like that.
I'm laughing because I found out when everyone else found out. I had no idea.
Really?
Yeah, I found out when everyone else
Oh my.
found out. I had
So
no
how did you
idea.
find out? How did you find out then? What
Um,
was it on?
my boss texted me like, let's say 10 minutes before it went live and said, "Congratulations, like you've been named." I'm thinking, what? I'm thinking, but you know what? I wasn't named. I wasn't on it last year, and I told
Yeah,
myself I'm gonna do everything I can to at least be in consideration for the following year, as in just recently.
yeah,
So I worked so hard. Like, listen, I want to do everything I can because in my first year for the Fleck, I got nominated for the Antonio story, and obviously the following year I got nominated for this story. So I was like, listen, I just want to do everything I can to get nominated. But yeah, when I saw it, I was like, oh, like I was happy, but then I thought this is great, happy, really good. But now I want to like let this be a regular thing, not a one-off. I want to keep getting nominated for more awards. Like it's sort of the element of not being satisfied. You want to keep getting the awards, keep getting on. It's like a striker. A striker's not content with scoring 2 goals. They want a hat trick. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So, but yeah, it was really good. Like I'm definitely one of my proudest moments so far in my career. I saw it and I thought, bloody hell, like this is just mental, like to be recognized for something like this. But no, it was really good, great feeling, and the family were proud, work were
yeah, yeah.
proud. Yeah, great. And obviously my colleague Ryan as well, Ryan Conway.
Ryan Conway
He,
for the Derby correspondent.
yeah, he was
Yeah, yeah.
also nominated for it as well. So yeah, no, great feeling. Obviously Carl was nominated for the big one. Yeah, no, great feeling, really good
I
feeling.
wasn't Art de Roche on it
Yeah,
for
art as
yeah.
well. Oh, I forgot about art. Yeah, art as well. No, really good feeling, really good feeling.
That's really good. I mean, like, and going on in the future, like you say, it's not enough. You want to be nominated for more awards and things like that. And I would guess that due to your dog mentality of it's never enough. You're hungry, you want more. You know, in terms of progressing the industry further and being more as you get more experience and as you have more knowledge about the industry and as you further yourself, how important to you is it to make for change for racial diversity in the industry, and what steps do you think need to be done in order to promote that more? Because obviously there are steps being done, but is it enough, and what do we need to be doing to actually get it over the line?
It's not enough for the simple fact, as I touched on earlier, I'm still pretty much like the only black journal in the press box for West Ham. Like more can definitely still be done. And it's the simple fact that listen, if there's talent out there, just give like them a chance. I'm not saying to completely stop employing white people. Like, I'm not saying that the slightest, but I'm saying there's young up and coming black journalists rather, who deserve a chance. Like one thing about me, before I forgot to mention earlier, in fact, during uni, because I had no money for like oh what's it called? NCTJ. So like you learn like court reporting, shorthand and whatnot. Mate, I had no money for that. So I thought, how can I be different? How can I have a USP? At uni, I also learned how to use InDesign and Photoshop. So I used to make these like magazines and I'd email them to editors and say, like, listen, this is what I can do. Can I come in for work experience? And how I was back then, I will keep emailing you until you reply back. Like, and that's part of the reason why I'm happy you're on there. You're on like, hey, Roshane, can you meet up? Can you do that? I was just the same. Like, I
Yeah,
always
yeah,
told people, one email is never enough. You got to keep chasing up. You got to keep. Obviously, not the bad. Keep annoying people. Like the best journals are annoying. Like we're always
yeah, yeah,
intrigued. So yeah, I'll do stuff like that, for example, and people look at it, but only a select few, like people like Oliver Kay or Sam Morris, they'll get back to me and be really like, oh, loving what you're doing.
mm,
But they're not editors, they're just journals.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I feel like journals should just look at it and be like, listen, there's promising black journals around, just give them a chance. And that's one of the big reasons why I always give a massive shout out to my boss, Alex Kajelski, because there's myself, there's Ryan, there's Carl, there's Art, and some of the editors. There's Dan Burns, Richard Amofa, Anthony Hay. That's what 7 names I mentioned. That's more than other companies. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So someone like the Athletic could sort of lead them by example in terms of diversity because you don't really see it other places. Who are the other big time black journalists that I could think of? What? Sammy Mockbell, Adrian Kajemba, Darren Lewis, and that's pretty much it that comes to
Mm.
mind. You know what I mean? So
It's not
it
enough.
should be,
It's really not
yeah,
enough.
it's definitely not enough. And when you think about the amount of like black footballers there are on a pitch,
Mm.
it should also be reflective in the press box. If you think about America, I love basketball and I always watching ESPN. I'm seeing so many like, you know, black presenters or black reporters. So why can't it be something similar in terms of the Premier League? As I touched on, the talent there, just give them
Mm.
an opportunity. It doesn't have to be that to be in the press box. At least give them an opportunity in the newsroom. Let them know what that's like. So, and again, like when I was again, this is after I left Talksport, in fact, and I wanted to like make the transition to get into do more news reporting or news writing, and I applied for a graduate scheme at at the Telegraph, and I made it to the last 20, the last 20 or last 30. On my day, I was the only black journalist, bro. The only black journalist. And before it even started, I felt defeated. I was like, I'm not getting it. I'm the only black journalist here. I'm not gonna get this job. But the
Mm.
simple fact, I was the only black person there. Like everyone was so well spoken. If I want to call it posh if you want to call it that. Again, me from Brixton, I'm just a random guy. And the guy was walking around like not walking around, but like we're at this desk and he was like, oh, tell us who you are about yourself, your journey, what you're studying. People are like, I'm from Oxford, I'm from Cambridge, I'm from this uni. I'm thinking, I'm an average Joe. I'm an average Joe. And the way the guy was, he was like getting all excited. If you said you're from Cambridge, he had an erection. That's how happy he was. You know what I mean? That's how happy he
Love
was.
that.
I was
Daddy's
thinking,
paying for my university and my car, you know.
what is that?
Daddy's paying for my university and my car.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it just felt like, nah, like this is what I'm coming up against. And it's the thing where like, listen, I was just as good as anyone else in that table, but because you're sort of thinking like, oh, the background in Cambridge and Oxford, you got to be good enough if you go there. And I
Mm.
feel like that sort of narrative should change because you don't have to go to some posh uni to do well or some big time establishment to do well. All you got to do is have hunger and drive, and you can get that chance. And yeah, as I mentioned, a huge shout out to Athletic because they've been giving black people a chance, like myself. And I feel like other companies should lead by example and sort of be like, hey, let's sort of change up a little bit. Let's give more black journalists opportunity.
I 100% agree with you, mate. And you talk about background, and obviously schools and education are a huge part of your background. And do you think that the responsibility lies with schools as well? Because you said right at the start of our chat that you went to school and you were really good at English, and that's what sort of made you think, okay, maybe I can go down a sort of writing path and do something to do with that. Do you think that it's the responsibility of the schools as well to look out and really you know, do their bit as well? Because just like you said about uni, about everyone getting an erection for Cambridge and Oxford guys, it's the same in schools, isn't it? Really, with teachers' favourites and them having certain trust in these pupils and not these pupils, and I don't think that issue is talked about enough.
No, for sure, for sure. And as I like think back to like even school days and whatnot, like it was just sort of treated different in terms of like black students and white students. So there's a bit more patience of like a white student, for example, but a black student, the one time you do something bad, like you're out. You know what I mean? Like you're the worst thing ever. And I feel
Mm.
like that it's probably changed now, but I feel like that sort of narrative should change as well. And yeah, like it's just a case of just having like faith in what they can do. If it wasn't for my English teacher saying, "Listen, you can have a career in journalism," who knows what I'll be doing right now? You know what I mean? He sort of had that thing where like, "Listen, you're good. Like I'm gonna take you under my wing, show you what you can do." And as I touched on, someone like Brixton, South London, if we're being real, it's mainly like gun crime, not gun crime as much before, but like knife crime, selling drugs, that sort of environment people fall down. And I feel like with teachers, if they feel like someone has like a hidden potential, they should definitely try to do everything they can to sort of guide them in that sort of path. And be like,
Mm.
listen, I thought you're really good. I used to be good at maths, nowhere near as good as English, but I wasn't too bad. Our math teacher, Miss Khan, she was so good. Like she would stay behind after school and help me like with certain stuff. She didn't have to do that. She won't get paid for it. She doesn't
Mm.
have to do that. But she's like, listen, I feel like you're really good. You're dedicated. I'm gonna show you do everything I can to help you out. So again, that's another example of just people teachers sort of should have that more responsibility to be like, listen, I feel like someone dedicated and have the potential and help them out as much as I can.
It's definitely up to teachers 100%. And you can see like even, and it doesn't matter what generation you're in, you're not an old man, but you went to school, you went to high school and primary school 10 years before me. And I still have a couple of years ago in my high school and even then before that in my primary school, I could say the same about some teachers who you could tell that maybe I'm generalizing here, but you could tell which ones had really, really had the passion for teaching and really got something out of seeing their students succeed. and
Yeah.
the ones that just wanted to make things run smoothly and just wanted to show their higher ups that they were doing a good job.
Yeah, to try to get a pay rise. That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, especially in certain places, like, I think in an area like London, I'm from West London myself. I've lived in Manchester or just outside Manchester for about 7 years now. But I grew up there, and I feel like there's a lot, and and there's racial diversity mostly in London compared to a lot of other places in the UK. And I feel like the places where there are racial diversity, there is a higher sense of community, and there is more of a sense of, okay, I want to see everyone do well, instead of when you've got a underrepresented community and it's a bit more sort of frosty, and it's a bit more it's a bit more
Yeah.
it's a bit more what's the word, there's a lot more tension.
Yeah, no. What in terms of what students or just in general the whole
No,
area?
well, I just mean in terms, yeah, with teachers and well, I mean the fact of the matter is, I feel like there's a lot more in communities like that where there's a lot more racial diversity and that background diversity. It's teachers are a lot more likely to help you and look out for you, and
Oh, for
even not
sure.
necessarily teachers, like elder figures and people who are above you, rather than in areas where we're sort of stuck in the past a little bit, and we're behind in the times.
I'm so happy to stuck in the past. I remember, right? I got two examples. So I would have been at this time about 20, I reckon. 21 tops. And I covered the game. I'm gonna say it was a UT match at Dagenham and Redbridge.
Yeah.
So I get my pass now. I go to the reception to get my pass. This woman says to me, right, we don't get faces like you around here.
At Dagenham and Redbridge.
Yeah, I swear to you, we don't get faces like you around here. So I'm thinking, what? So I'm thinking, what? I mean, I sort of brush it off. I get to the press box now, and I swear, like, it just felt like all eyes were on me. Like, I felt so uncomfortable. It just felt like that's the only time I've ever left a match. The only time. I felt so uncomfortable. Like, all eyes are on me. Like, I shouldn't be here. Oh, it was mental. And the next time I felt uncomfortable because I've been through that experience, I could sort of brush it off. So I covered an event, a flex event in Sheffield. So again, I get my pass. The woman who gives my pass, it's just, oh mate, just been so difficult. Like, why are you here? Are you sure you're in the right place?
Yeah,
You don't really,
sometimes you can tell without even anyone saying anything,
you know
It
what I
doesn't
mean?
have to be evidence, you can sense it, you can smell it,
Yeah. You for real, like, don't know you should be doing this sort of real, like, this being so rude. But as I mentioned, because I've been for that experience like on Redbridge, I can sort of be the bigger person and be like, listen, I deserve to be here. I'm as good as anyone else here. So yeah, those are my two examples, just being people so backwards in terms of their thinking.
Honestly. And hopefully, as the future rolls on and as companies like The Athletic are paving the way, and like you said, giving young black journalists a chance, hopefully, especially in this industry anyway, we'll hope to see more racial diversity, and hopefully other mainstream outlets follow suit, because that's the only way we're going to push forward for change. And as certain industries start to do it, every industry has a link chain to another one. You think about journalism has got a link to TV, it's got a link to radio, it's got a
Yep,
link to written
yep.
stuff, authors, stuff like that. And I feel like as long as we are responsible as workers in an industry to push forward, and make it heard and make it important that there should be racial diversity in these industries, and other industries will follow suit, and we can, it's cliche, but make the world a better place.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like, for example, right, you know how the Mail Online used to write some terrible articles about Raheem Sterling.
Yeah.
If you're like an ethic person in that newsroom, they could have been like, listen, I'm not sure about that headline. I'm not sure we should be writing this, or you got to look at the racial connotations if we were to say this sort of word, say that word. But if it's like a predominantly a white newsroom, no one's got to sort of think from a different perspective. You know what I
Mm.
mean? That's why you got to have more diversity in newsroom and places like that. So you get a second opinion in case you're not sure if something should be said, or you know what I mean. So, and let's touch on that flag. We've been nominated for a diversity award.
Mm.
So stuff like that, like we've shown it's possible. We've only been up and running for about, this summer will be 2 years since we've been up and running. 2 years, and in that time, look how much we've done in terms of diversity. Other companies have been around for so long, and it's small progress. Like, come on, you can do better, like everyone else. Like, give more people an opportunity. Just let them have a platform where they can, like. It reached the point where, and I'll be honest with you, where I don't even watch Sky News anymore. Because I watch Sky News, I'm seeing the same old faces all the time. I'm not seeing someone like myself on there being really given a chance to do well. But if I put on like an ITV News, I'm seeing I'm seeing like a Nina Hussein, for example, or other like reporters who look like myself or talk like myself. You know what I mean? It get or what's the young guy called? I can't remember his name, but there's like a guy a reporter and he's got like plaits. I could never imagine a reporter having plaits on Sky News. You know what I mean? Oh, it's not professional, all that sort of stuff. That rubbish they'll tell you about. So stuff like that is like, you know what I mean? I can tell your eyes.
You know what? You know what? You talk about Platts, right? And it's just made me think. I'm on it. This is for my course. It's all about you, but just to say
Yeah,
about me. I've had my dreadlocks for about a year and a half,
yeah,
and what come it's enough bother with what the stigma that comes with, oh, you're, especially from other white people, oh, you're white, you got dreadlocks, blah blah blah. What you're doing. But I've been told by so many people. I've been told by teachers. I've been told by you know, people above me. I've been told by just people looking in and being nosy, you're not going to get anywhere with that hair. You're not going, you've got to get rid of it. There's certain places you won't be able to go with that hair. And, I just think to myself, at the end of the day, and people who look different or choose to be different, dare to be different, you know, I'm still me inside, just because I have a certain hairstyle, just because I might wear certain things or look a certain way, doesn't mean that I'm any less capable of doing a job.
and that's exactly. You could your dreadlocks could be yellow or gold, for all I care, bro. You can still do your job like everyone else. You know what I mean? What?
Yeah,
Because you
yeah.
have a different hairstyle. Like I used to have plaits back in the day, and I would still go like press box and whatnot. Like, yeah, I mean, you're not gonna tell me how I can look or how
Mm,
I can't look. What? At my colleague, right, Ryan Conway, I remember one. I forgot what game it was, but he was dressed. They said his dress style was like not in standard with what we're used to at Derby County, and then they had to complain. They had to apologize again because they were out of line for saying that. So yeah, like that whole stuff not being professional. That's absolute bollocks. Absolute bollocks. You
I
wear what you
totally
want,
agree.
just how you want. Be yourself. You know what I mean? Like that way, people can relate to you more. If everyone looks the same, that's boring. Who wants to look like everyone else? That's why I always touch on, like, again, that example I use, the ITV News. When I'm seeing a report of like plaits, I'll be like, oh wow, I used to have plaits. I can relate to that. Or putting on
Mm.
Sky News, I'm seeing nothing but just rubbish. You know what I mean? Rubbish stuff like not the average guy can't relate to. So yeah.
And like you said about that presenter, if you see people in the public eye who are who do, dress a certain way or have their hair a certain way, or diversity in a nutshell, that makes people sort of, shut up and actually lets you do your thing because it's the consent, it's the set consensus, it's accepted, and hopefully things change because although there are steps being taken at the moment, there's still way more to be done.
Yeah, way more to be done, but it shouldn't be this slow though. It
Mm,
really shouldn't. Like it shouldn't be at some sort of snail pace. When you
mm.
think about, like, as I touched on, the number of like black players in the football field, why is there no diversity in the press box? I'm talking about East London, right? And I'm the only black journal in the press box predominantly. Sometimes there's like a Gary or Asian Kajambo or what have you, but more often than not, it'll just be me. Like East London, I'm in East London, a multicultural area. That shouldn't be.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
should.
yeah.
It really shouldn't. It really shouldn't. And yeah, like it's just they just need to wake up, in my opinion. Wake up, look at the bigger picture, look at how much of an impact it will have to have more diversity in your newsroom, how it could benefit you as a company, have
Yeah,
different opinions and stuff. So yeah, hopefully we'll see more of an improvement in the future.
well, the message is clear. Roshane Thomas, everyone. Thanks very much, mate. Thank you for talking to
Oh,
me. I'm going to stop the recording now,
oh.
but this will really help for my coursework. So thank you a lot, mate.
Man, so what is it like? Have you got to transcribe it, or is it just like one big audio file?
It's a big audio file. I've got to transcribe it for a feature. So